Hi, welcome to Growth Inspires. And in our series today, we have Rachna Mehra, the CHRO of Arvind Limited. Rachna is a known figure in the HR industry. She has been working across various companies in the last 25 to 30 years of her experience. She is one such leader who has bring a lot of transformational changes across organizations. And today, we would like to know more around what goes in the making of a leader. So here we have Rachna Mehra with us. Namaskar, Rachna.
Namaskar, Pankaj. Thank you so much for this platform and for the privilege of being able to speak as a part of the growth series that we are.
Rachna, today we'll have some curiosities, and as you know, Growth Inspires is a podcast which brings what goes in making of a leader, and we are really excited to have you on our platform. My first curiosity goes about the early days of your life. So, can you talk about the early days of your life?
Sure, Pankaj. I feel all of us are shaped by primarily our experiences in the early part of our lives in childhood. Um, like any other person my age, I came from a joint family, a large joint family of about 16 people staying under one roof. Um, that itself was a great opportunity to, I think, learn a lot of things. There was a focus in the family on naturally on education and doing well academically, but also at the same time it was the family, including my father, my grandfather, and my grandmother, were also very, very encouraging about more holistic way of looking at life. So interest in sports, music, literature, dance, and art was encouraged. There were a lot of people within the family, my father himself was an IIT graduate and went for his masters to Germany. My chacha was a PhD in anthropology. But at the same time, my boa was a Kathak dancer, and one of the boas was an All India radio singer. So there was a lot of confluence of academics and arts and culture in the family. And I had a very full childhood. I think if I look at the early part of my life, there was a lot of focus on meaningful connections. So how you engage with your uncles and how do you engage with your aunts and your first cousins, including your grandparents, was very different. So ability to build connections with, let's say, three generations, it was an important ability, and I think I'm grateful for that experience that I got in my childhood. Also, the important ability to learn adjustment, that you're in a queue, that things will not come to you first, that if there is something left over, it will come to you. So, managing expectations of oneself vis a vis expectations of the larger interest of the family, become very important. Important aspect of sharing, and that sharing is more meaningful rather than getting everything for yourself. Also, resolving conflicts. So, parents never intervened in any कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स जो झगड़ा होता था हमारे भाइयों बहनों में, सो हम लोग को खुद ही निपटाना होता था. Nobody had the time to intervene, and thank God for that, because through that you learned to resolve conflicts. You learned sometimes to be the bigger person while being the smaller person. Sometimes in terms of age you learned collaboration. So the early part of my childhood was very, very fulfilling in terms of all these things, and a continuous focus on not only academics but sports, खेलना कूदना, हर छोटी चीज फेस्टिवल को jointly celebrate करना. So I think it was a beautiful time. For everyone, their childhood is the most beautiful time, and for me, definitely it was. I think another important thing that I saw in my family specifically was that I was never seen as a gendered child. I mean, I was never seen as a daughter. And that is very important, because sometimes I have one sibling, मेरा एक भाई है, but I have always actually been the preferred child, and I have always been seen as a person rather than being a girl or a boy. And throughout my life, in fact, I have always had positive differentiation because of my gender, saying that I can do much more than my brother, and I think that has been a unique privilege on how how my grandfather, saw girls in that time, and how my father and my parents, more importantly, brought me up. You know, so being a girl was very powerful in our family. Yeah.
So you talked about being a girl is was very powerful, in your family. So how has it shaped the thought process over time? Because if I look from the society point of view, we tend to get a lot of things, and on social media a lot of things are available when it talks about gender bias. uh, how important it is to shape the mindset of a girl who is getting a lot of privilege from the family in terms of freedom, in terms of doing things whatever. And I understand with the kind of success you have got in your life, obviously that shapes up. But can you talk around how it actually shapes the mindset in terms of going forward?
Yes, I think that's very relevant, and thank you for asking that question, Pankaj. It's very relevant how we bring up our children. For me, it just allowed me to be completely independent. It allowed me to try new things. It allowed me to not act from safety. That environment always, the question was कि अच्छा ये मैं क्यों नहीं कर सकती हूँ. So there was no one telling. In fact, there was a lot of push, whether it was appearing for a pilot exam after 12th. I was, so father said, go and apply, what is the harm in applying? So go and apply. Whether it was just volunteering for a quiz show in Doordarshan, I just randomly go and so there was a lot of push on trying. And I feel that when you come from a privileged or a background wherein you are pushed to try new things, I think that's also what shapes an element of curiosity and of fierce independence, that you can do things on your own. I think those are the two or three very clear, distinct things that I got from this environment, from my childhood. Yeah.
That's so wonderful coming from you, Rachna. My next curiosity is around the events and incidences of life. So you talked about your childhood. That was one of the very mesmerizing days of your life, in the sense like you were lucky enough to get the kind of parents, the kind of grandfather, grandmother, and the kind of environment and family. Uh, but what were the two events or incidences that you think have added exponential value to your growth? What happened after your childhood? If you could narrate a little story around it.
Yeah, sure. Just like a small context setting after my school, we came from a working class, service class background. So the focus on doing well academically to be able to create your own path was very clear. We were not allowed any tuitions, so you have to learn the hard way. You have to struggle with the problem, stand in the complexity of your problem, resolve things on your own. So always the focus was on doing your work yourself. Why should someone else do your work for you? I did my bachelor's in maths and statistics and physics, and then went on to do my MBA. And in that entire journey, what I realized was I was doing everything on my own. My parents did not even know where I was applying, what I was doing, what kind of effort I was putting in, what kind of entrance exams. So because they had brought me in a certain way, they expected that she will be able to handle this, on her own. So there was no active parenting. I think the relationship was more like an adult. Even when I was in, after my 12th grade, I just feel that was very important. It allowed conviction in my own decision in trying my own things. um, I would say, and professionally, uh, I just focused on showing up every day, whether it was the beginning part of my summer internship, or showing up for classes every day. Just showing up every day was something that became as an important, way of life for me. I think there are two important turning points when I look at my life after the early days, which truly, some of it is actually a part of the later part of the early days, and then more, the second part is more work related. I think I moved to a different school, and I moved to a colony life environment. What I got there was an accessibility to a lot of things that I was not getting earlier. Accessibility to sports, a library. So, typically you would find me typically out of the house after school, so either I'm playing badminton, playing TT, cycling, swimming, going to the library to read, just hanging out with friends. So I was always it allowed me an opportunity to explore myself fully. And what that brought was a lot of discipline in terms of, let's say, if I have to get up in the morning and go for badminton, I will get up in the morning. My parents won't even come to know. So there's no one waking you up. There's no one, because it's important that you're only getting to play for a short time. Otherwise, wo court bhi available nahi hai. Then someone else is playing. So you have to maximize the time that is available. So when you're working with those kind of constraints, you realize that what a great privilege this is to be able to get this opportunity. And then the focus has to be to just how do you maximize that time, कि खेलना भी है, पढ़ना भी है, म्यूजिक भी करना है, थोड़ा रिलैक्स भी करना है, सब कुछ करना है, तो सबके लिए समय निकालना है. So life has to be full. And I think that entire colony life in HL, my father was in HL, that entire colony environment, wherein I could have access to this, and plus with my parents encouraging me, I think that was a big turning point. It allowed me to shape. I'm also deeply have a lot of gratitude to my school, Loreto, where I went for my schooling. We had great teachers there, and I think what I learned from the teachers from my time was that depth is important. Understanding areas of depth is important, and then naturally, because we were a convent, there was a focus on discipline, there was a focus on being neat, there was a focus on daily hard work, the daily rigor on homework, etc., which became important. So I think that was one clear turning point, that whole school and colony life, that played an important role. I think the second important aspect has been that since the start of my career, Pankaj, I've been lucky to be able to directly work with promoters. And that I think truly has been a blessing, because if you're working with a promoter and he's a good leader, he or she is a good leader, I think there is just so much room to learn, because you understand they treat you firstly not as a functional person. They will look upon you as someone whom they can contextualize with, whom they can share their problems. So it is with my first boss, and I would like to specifically thank Mr. Gautam Nair, who was the MD of Matrix Clothing, my first company, which I was lucky enough to get placed in after my summers in one of their group companies, Texcorp. Mr. Nair immediately, thankfully, threw me at the deep end in the business, trying to learn merchandising, and I was put on an important transformation manufacturing project, and there was a lot to learn, as a part of that role. And the second is my current my promoter, my chairman, Mr. Sanjay Lalbhai, whom I have had the great privilege of working with, because he has pushed my learning and my exposure beyond HR. He is pushed for each person in the company to have a business orientation, to look at solution orientation, to look at problem solving. And while doing all of that, carrying people with you, working ethically. So I think those two have been the most important turning points. What I am, where I am in my life professionally, is largely on account of the exposure and the trust and the empowerment that has been put in by leaders, who I have had the great fortune of working with. It has taught me so much about life and about the business world, that I see my role currently as being beyond HR. And for that I'm eternally grateful to all the people, including Mr. Jagdeep Kochar, Mr. Gautam Nair, and Mr. Sanjay Lalbhai, for truly shaping me as a person. I'm not sure, Pankaj, whether I've answered that question, but these are the two important turning points in my life, I would say.
No, that's really answered my question. In fact, it gave me another question to talk about, because you talked about how important it is to have more of a business exposure as you want to do great in your human resource life, as being a CHRO of a large organization today. A question to you, and I think this is question which all the budding HR professionals would be definitely asking if they were available here, is how important is to have that kind of a business orientation, is that kind of a business outlook in order to excel, better in the human resource department.
I think it's the most important thing that an HR person will do, Pankaj, because if we are not able to understand the business and how the what context does the business operate, we will not be able to provide any meaningful input. If we truly need to be a partner, and if we need truly a seat at the table when the business decisions are being taken, HR needs to understand and learn the business. It would be great if HR, as a part of its role, is giving rotational assignments in sales, in supply chain, in procurement, at least for them to be able to understand what it takes, and then move to finally HR. So I feel that the best, business people who rotate in these kind of fields and move to HR. I'm an HR person also by, I would say, by accident rather by design. I moved to different functions finally before coming to HR, and I'm eternally grateful for that experience. So I think it's very important, Pankaj, to be able to strong anchoring around business. Very, very important.
Thanks for sharing this, Rachna. We go back to your journey now. Uh, uh, when you talk about, you talked about two things. One was, being grateful to the leaders with whom you worked, and you also talked about how it gives you a different set of a different mindset when you are working with promoters, because then it helps you to look more from the business angle and other words. But in most of the kind of if you go and read the autobiographies or biographies of leaders, and not limiting to only corporate leaders, we see that it's not a straight line. It's generally a curve. Sometimes you are doing really great. Sometimes you are not doing that great. So can you talk about some of the highs and lows of your life uh, in your journey so far?
Sure, Pankaj. As you very relevant observation that life is never a straight line. There is nothing in life which is a straight line. Life is a series of, I think, various steps. I would say some take you up, some take you down, and in the end, that is what the journey is. So sometimes I feel we become so fixated on the destination that we lose sight of the current moment, and being in the current moment. For me also, I think I've had a series of ups and downs in my life. There are stages in one's life when, for me, relocation, every time I had to relocate on accounts of my husband's job, I had to, reset my entire career. you know at that point in time, I decided that, well, this is a joint family decision whether we are moving to Gurgaon or we are moving back to Ahmedabad. And this is an acceptance, and with that acceptance comes flexibility to say, okay, that this is your situation. How do you maximize it? So you use a circumstance as a strength, and 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 it becomes a strength once you accept that this is fine, this is your decision also. Sometimes when you are prepared to work part time as a consultant because of young children, sometimes when you are relocated and you may not have those kind of opportunities in a new city, I think it's important to make the most of what you have at that point in time, rather than focus on what was there earlier. I think that 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 brought a lot of comfort in in whatever stages my life took. So I had to take my career had to take a back seat when my children were small. I started working part time. Thankfully, even after my first daughter was born, I was thinking that how will I manage. I was in a nuclear family, and I was wondering how will I manage a small baby at a full time factory kind of a work, and which is a full time. My promoter was kind enough to say that you bring your child to the office. So I used to carry my baby to the office. I used to work a full day. I used to take care of her in the office, and then I used to go back in the evening with her. So every time there was a constraint, I think it's important that the need to work and not giving up that work became important, and the other side always rose up, to meet that requirement. So when I thought of when I had my second child and both children were small, my husband was working in Gurgaon, and I was managing the kids all by myself in a full time job. I also thought that whether I should give up my job. Often this guilt of not having spent enough time with your children. Not my mother also stays with me after my father passed away, so looking after my mother. Sometimes I thought, let me give up my job, but every time I thought of doing that, and I said, okay, let me see if a part-time opportunity is available. And at the moment I went with that kind of thought, the other side always reciprocated. So I feel that sometimes in life, specifically women, I feel we constrain ourselves to say कि ये नहीं हो सकता है या ये पॉसिबल नहीं है. बट लाइफ में चीज़ों को गिव अप करना आसान रहता है. उस चैलेंज पे परसिस्ट करके टू मेक इट वर्क इज द डिफिकल्ट पीस. एंड व्हाट आई रियलाइज्ड इज दैट जो भी सिचुएशन रहा है उसको एक्सेप्ट करके हाउ डू आई मेक दैट वर्क has truly helped me. So that acceptance and flexibility, I think, have been important strengths. It has allowed me to say that even if the conversation is not going in the direction that I would want it to be, can I be flexible? Can I be flexible? It opens up a different perspective, right? And the other side always sees this, I feel. दूसरा side हमेशा समझ जाता है. बट आई जस्ट फील कि वो सब स्टेजेस हैं लाइफ में जब आप अर्ली करियर में हैं, जब व्हेन यू आर अ मदर, एंड आई एम अ मदर टू 2 children, or the full time job, plant job. So I think those stages have been like, relocations have been highs and lows. I came back to India from Africa without a job. I could be worried. I said, okay, I will take this as an opportunity. I will start something on my own, right? So I think seeing the silver lining is the most important thing in life. Every stage is a silver lining.
In your journey, you also had a small stint of an entrepreneur role. Starting something of your own. How exciting was it? Because when you talked about one of the things of highs and lows, I still remember in one of the podcast, one entrepreneur talked about it is sometimes it's very difficult to run an organization. So what an entrepreneur thinks is, let me run it for one more month before closing it. तो हिंदी में कहावत है, कई बार हम इसलिए जीत जाते हैं क्योंकि हम हारने को एक दिन से टाल देते हैं. सो जब हम हारने को एक दिन से टाल देते हैं तो हमारा जीतना और ज्यादा करीब आ जाता है. सो आई कैन रिलेट टू इट what you just talked about. So my question was, can you talk a little around your entrepreneurial journey as well?
So the entrepreneurial journey was a very exciting journey, Pankaj. Firstly, I never thought that I had an entrepreneurial bone in my body, right? I thought that I come from a service class background. I worked all my life. Here I am without a job. What do I do? I just reached out to a few people, and they said that definitely we'd like to work with you. It was a very exciting journey for 2-3 things. That every day there were new problems to solve for. Every day there were new challenges. Each organization has its own context, had its own challenges. So I learned a lot in the 3 years that I was an entrepreneur. I met some very, very good people. I built connections for life. And I think in that 2-3 years, I think पर्सपेक्टिव जो होता है, हर प्रॉब्लम को देखने के नज़रिए बहुत सारे हो सकते हैं. When you're working in the consulting world and when you're trying to problem solve for organizations, you understand and relate to different perspectives. And what you also understand कि एक solution हर जगह नहीं चलता है, right? Every solution is in a context. So it was a very fulfilling journey. And as you correctly said, it was a difficult journey also. I was traveling 15 days a month. I had 2 school-going children. But again, I realized that isko chhodna nahi hai. Life is about doing this and that. So I have to be a successful entrepreneur. I have to be do my right job as a mother, as well as a daughter and as a wife. So it was a very fulfilling and exciting journey, and I'm grateful for that part of my career. That I got an opportunity like that. It changed my worldview.
My next curiosity is around your, the journey which you have, tracked so far, and it's an inspirational journey, and and everybody has certain dreams to pursue those dreams, and to contribute and matter. And today, if I look at leader helm of a large organization, you are responsible for so many things. Yet, if I see you in many of the seminars which you have done and otherwise, you are so humble, so grounded, yet so successful, and you have done many hats in your lives. The privilege of being a female, a woman, is you not only done so many hats in your family life, but you also you have done it in your corporate life. So can you talk around a little around it? How have you done it? What had made you so humble yet so successful?
I don't know, Pankaj, about humble and success, but what I do know is that what gives me meaning are few things in my life, and I'd like to share that with you. Um, One thing is just to show up daily, right? That is something that has been starting. So we were the people who never missed school. We always used to get attendance awards. So right from early childhood, just showing up daily is the first thing, and that has been a practice throughout my life. Second thing, I feel that be the bigger person in life. That has truly helped me, because if I am that, and if I am working with empathy, I think a lot of problems that we face as human beings kind of just fall in place. And So I think I lead my life. I would like to think of myself as someone who brings empathy and dignity and respect in conversations with people, and that truly shapes me. That's an important value, that I hold close to myself. Third is that resilience is important, right? Life is not about giving up. Life is about doing many things, right? And I still have like a laundry list of things that I want to do. At this stage in my life, I think the list only keeps on increasing, and not only the list is increasing, but I'm ticking off a lot of things on that list, which means that each one of us should lead a full life. And it's easy to give up, as I said. It's important to find mechanisms and find support systems that will make you lead a full life, right? So resilience is also a very important. I don't give up easily, right? मेरे लिए it's a loss of credibility in myself. I cannot give up easily. So resilience, showing up daily, empathy, working with, being the bigger person, um, um, and curiosity, trying new things, learning new things. And specifically, when I say this with all seriousness, that even understanding your own economic independence becomes extremely important, whether you're a man or a woman. Especially for women, they typically leave it to their spouses or to their fathers or to their brothers. I make it a point to understand my economic status in terms of my wealth, etc., what I have on a monthly basis. I make it a point, right? And I think finally, patience goes a long way. So when I look at the fundamental virtues of, and I think which is the reason why I have, kind of worked so long at Arvind, also, is that because at a value level there is a lot of resonance. There is a lot of people are treated with kindness, with respect, with dignity. There is a focus on meritocracy, right? On trusteeship, that we are trustees, we are not owners. So we have to do right for the organization, which is for the long term, right? It helps you take the right decisions. I just feel I have led my life on these principles, and And I think those are the values that have got me where I am. I'm not sure about humility or success. I just feel that I am an ordinary person living an ordinary life. But this is, as at a value level, I think these are the values that resonate with me the most. And I try to live my life according to these values.
So, Rachna, you talked about that resilience is important and you cannot give up easily. Second thing you talked about that your laundry list is increasing, so there's a lot to do, as you move ahead. Um,
Yes.
can you talk about because I understand a lot of curiosity is coming from my side, but one last curiosity is, can you talk about some of the things which you would like to do? You know, uh, I cannot say
Yes.
post your corporate life because the life doesn't end. Uh,
Right.
but maybe some one or two things which you would like to do, which you think you have not been able to do so far because of your schedule or whatever.
Yes, so there are a lot of things, Pankaj. I would like to at least get to reading and finishing about 12 to 15 books in a year. I would like to set up a small farm and a hydroponic farm. I would like to open an NGO. I would like to learn Kathak. I would like to get back to playing badminton, which I enjoyed doing. I would like to see the country and I would like to trek. Uh, I would like to possibly donate some time to an animal shelter, and I would like to teach small kids in a kindergarten. So all those things are the things that I would love to do. And I'm actually, I like to sing also. And so there's just so many things that I would like to do.
So, Rachna, this particular answer actually helped me to navigate back to our first question, wherein you talked about that I used to do swimming, I used to, learn Kathak, I used to do this. I think, life is a 360 degrees circle. What you learn in initial days, you actually want to do as you move forward.
बिल्कुल सही कहा आपने बिल्कुल पंकज. So you'd like to go back to your, being the child. So I think the child in you is very important. Being happy each day, living some part of that child is very important.
Thank you so much, Rachna, for sharing, this talks with us. You answered some of our curiosities, in fact, all of our curiosities. And what I find is a lot to do is left as we move forward. And I wish you all the best, and all the best to your organization as well. You talked about, it's such a lovely organization, because respecting people and respecting their needs is very, very important. And working in such an organization, I'm sure, is also an honor for you.
It is a deep privilege and an honor to work at Arvind, and every day is a deeply meaningful and a fulfilling day for me.
Thank you, Rachna, for being a part of Growth Inspires. I'm sure you enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you, Pankaj. I'm grateful to you for this platform and to the good work that you're doing as a part of the Growth Inspire series. And I look forward to staying connected. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity.